side seeds do an ethnic cleansing.
What up, what up, what up? Hey! What up, everybody? Hey. First of all, I want to give it up to everybody for showing up, first of all. Thank you. I want to, before I even get started and before I do anything, I want to give my appreciation to BMU. I didn't know how I was going to start this, but the first thing I wanted to do, first of all, is give appreciation to BMU for even giving me this opportunity. I'm going to say something. I don't know. This whole thing started with me just, coming in, being a part of the chat, and just enjoying the network. And somewhere along the way, I ended up, coming in on Embrace's show. Shout out to Embrace the Grace. And, slowly but surely coming into the fold. And I don't know, him being able to pick me out of the fray and say, you know what, something about this guy, and seeing something in me and seeing something in me enough to be able to trust me to bring me into the fold, invite me to the cookout, and then not only invite me to the cookout, but then give me the keys to the castle. And then not only do that, but invite me onto his platform enough to say, I like this guy, I trust this guy, and, appreciate what he has to say, appreciate what he has to offer. And, I'm at a loss for words. So from the bottom of my heart, BMU, I appreciate you. All right. And I'm going to do my best to ensure that that will not return to you void. Okay. And definitely do you proud, sir. Okay. And lost in translation to you, sir. The many days and minutes and hours, okay, of just giving kind words and wisdom, behind the scenes. Appreciate it, and a salute to you, sir, as well. So to the rest of the BMU family, thanks for bringing me in with open arms. All right, and it's really appreciated. It's nice to have a semblance of belonging somewhere, especially out here in the YouTube street. So with that in mind, I probably should have also done a mic check. Also, I didn't have anyone in the back chat. So I just want to make sure, put one in the chat if you can hear me. I probably should have did that first. Oh, there we go. All right. Lost in translation definitely said he could definitely hear me there. So salute. Appreciate it. All right. So BMU, enjoy your night, sir. All right. And to everyone. So let's see. I'm going to take a page out of being Lost in Translation's page here and see who's in the chat. We got Catellia in the building. Thank you. I appreciate it. Lost in Translation. Appreciate it, sir. All right. We have Unapologetically Lala. Thank you. Good to see you. Embrace the Grace. Good evening to you, dear. All right. Who else we got here? Well, we know podcast. JT, sir. Appreciate you last night, sir, for getting me squared away on my own channel there, and sharing your wisdom behind the scenes as well too. Appreciate you last night. Oh, actually, no, it was not last night. Let me correct myself. This morning, 3 o'clock. 300 hours this morning. So appreciate it. Thank you. All right. And BMU, back to you, sir. The intro and the background, hats off to you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. So, before I get started, thank you for putting that in chat too, JT. Appreciate it. All right. So before I get started, all right. So I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of understanding what's happening here. So I am also manning engineering at the same time as well. So bear with me as I kind of fumble through this. I say fumble through, but I'm gonna figure this out. Okay, so bear with me if you see me kind of slow down a little bit. I'm managing behind the scenes as well, but we're gonna get through this tonight. Okay, me and you, Mr. Bennett. Thank you, appreciate it, sir. All right, so listen. Before I get into this, I want to kind of give you a introduction as far as what this show is going to be, what this segment is going to be about generally, okay? On a generic note. For the most part, my whole entire mindset has always been to take a very objective approach to basically anything that is presented or thrown my way. I have made no qualms. I've definitely made it very known to BMU, to Lost in Translation, and to everyone in the BMU family. And if you haven't picked up on it for the most part, I don't agree with everything that everyone on the panel says. I even talked to BMU before I accepted his offer, that I do not always agree with everything. And he said, but that's what we want. Okay. We're not an echo chamber. Okay. We want deference. We want dissent. We want to bring someone that has, that can argue down the middle, that has a difference of opinion, but also can articulate. All right. And it has a fair and objective view. And that is what I want to definitely bring and continue to bring throughout my stay here as well. So you can always rely on me to be as fair and as impartial as possible. You may not like everything I'm going to say, and I may not like everything you're going to say, but that's fine. That's why we're here. Iron sharpens iron, as Lost in Translation always says, and I agree with that. Okay, we cannot better each other if we do not push each other. Okay, so with that in mind, I am going to always give you the best that I have. I am not going to bring anything to you that I am either uncertain of. And if I am uncertain of it, I'm going to tell you that I'm uncertain of it and get back to you. All right. So I don't believe in giving anyone false information. And as you can see tonight, you will see tonight that I'm going to bring you some information. All right. And some proof on what I'm saying. I don't believe in just spitting out the side of my neck. All right. I don't do that. So if it's my opinion, damn it, you're going to know that it's my damn opinion. All right. And I'm going to stand on that shit. There you go, BMU. That's why you're named it Stand on Business. There it is. All right. So listen. Thanks. Did I ever take that down? I did not. Is somebody in the back? Okay. I did not take it down. Okay. There we go. See, look, there we go. See, technical issues already. There you go. All right. So that's right. Iron sharpens iron, sir. Appreciate you. All right, so I titled this show tonight, Is America Ready for a Theocracy? I'm going to show you a few videos tonight and give you a few examples of some chicanery that's going to be happening. All right. And see, send the link so I can stand. Okay, sure. Not a problem. And so I'm gonna show you a few links tonight to give you a different perspective of some things. But I'm also going to walk you down a story lane, okay? And I'm going to try to make this topic not as dull as possible, All right. But I'm going to tell you a story to get you to understand a perspective that maybe I don't think that America, the citizenry, is truly aware that we are unwittingly doing and prepping this country for. Okay. I don't think that we are truly aware that we're doing this. Okay. And that is prepping this country for a different style of a reality, different style of government. I think we claim that we are wanting to maintain this type of government as long as we can keep it. But our actions, I don't think our actions necessarily show it. I don't pay attention to what the hell we say. I pay attention to what the hell we do. And what we're doing doesn't necessarily align with what it is that we are doing. What we're doing doesn't align with what we're saying. What we're saying doesn't align with what we're doing. Something doesn't jive. So before I do that, I want to pose some questions. And as I am pausing for a second, I'm going to provide what has been requested of me. So give me 1 second. And then I'm waiting for a couple more people to go ahead and throw on in here really quick. So give me just 1 second. Right here. Let's see. And let's do it. So here we go. All right. Now, I'm going to pose a question or poll the chat really quick. I want to know, first of all, simple question. What type of government does everyone think that we have in America? Put it in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to know what everyone thinks. And I'll wait a second because I want to know. I give it about 30 seconds. We'll see. No, that's too long. Get about a few seconds here. Let's see. What type of government does everyone think that we have? Because I think everyone thinks they know what type of government that we have. But I don't think everyone really truly understands what type of government that we have. So I'll stand by. Come on, come on. Oh, come on, Lost. You can't give it to them right away. Dang. Democratic Republic. There it is right there. All right, Lost. Yes, a Democratic Republic. Okay, Quincy. So we have a corruption. Okay. So we got Democratic Republic. That's the correct answer. It's a corporation. Oh, sorry, I read it wrong. Excuse me. Socialist. Hello, 18. Appreciate you last night, by the way. You was not playing with that woman. It said, get thee away. Oh, come on, Embrace. Come on. The doom and gloom. She said, I fucked up and fake hypocritical government. Okay. All right. Yeah, true. All right. I'll take it. We can talk about that a little bit later too. Actually, I'm gonna star that message right there. So I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to that, Grace. So yep, I'm gonna hold on to that one. All right. So yes, we have a Democratic Republic. Now I'm gonna ask a different question. Should religion influence and drive government's laws in America? Yes or no? I'll give it a second. I'll give it a moment and see. Should religion influence and drive government's laws in America? A team says, no, it should not. Quincy says, no, it should not. Okay. So far, no. Okay. cool. We may have a good night here. Paul says, values, yes, religion, no. Some of our laws are, and some are not. Interesting. Oh, I see what happened there. Got it. All right, cool. So, like where we're going there. All right. So I'm going to hold off on that just for a second. And I'm going to show you the video that I have, a couple of videos that I have. And just so you can see, again, the chicanery. Okay. Because I don't believe anyone, I would be very honest with you. I'll be very honest. I did not know this place even existed in America. When I heard about this place, I thought they were talking about a different country. Didn't even know this place even existed in America. So beyond me. Here we go.
Welcome. You have made it to episode 1 of season 5 of Meet the Press Reports. Thanks for being here. Theocracy. It isn't a word you often hear in American politics these days, but given the religious rhetoric coming from some Republican candidates this year, it doesn't feel as far-fetched or hyperbolic as it would have been in the past. Frankly, it feels possible. There are candidates embracing the idea that whatever the First Amendment actually says about the free exercise or establishment of religion, that this wall between church and state should actually come down. And not only that, these folks argue the wall was actually never supposed to be there in the first place. In fact, here's Lauren Boebert. She's a freshman member of Congress from Colorado. She was speaking this summer to congregants. Here's what she said.
The church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church. That is not how our founding fathers intended it. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
She's not alone. The Republican candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, the nation's 5th most populous state, said this to his supporters.
So much for this myth of separation of church and state.
That's right. And that's the same position that Michael Peroutka, the Republican nominee for Maryland Attorney General, it's a position he's taken since at least 2014 when he called the separation of church and state, quote, the great lie. And he added, there can be no separation of God from government because he, capital H there, created it.
Now, I'm gonna pause right there for a second. I'm not gonna pause it too long because we got a lot to get through. But I'm just curious for a second. Did I miss something? I'm sorry. How do we get to a point where we've come to a point where that is a myth? Didn't we learn this shit? I'm sorry, somewhere in civics in like 7th, 8th grade somewhere? Or has education had, decreased or dilapidated or decayed that much? I mean, they're old. So I know they were still teaching the preamble of the Constitution. I mean, where I went to school in 7th and 8th grade, I actually recited the whole preamble to the Constitution, memorized it. Okay. All right. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
That would have been news to the founders, especially Thomas Jefferson.
Shit, news to me.
Who was the first of the founders to use the phrase, the wall of separation metaphor, to describe the First Amendment's religious freedom protections. Other Republicans, though, are openly embracing Christian nationalism.
We need to be the party of nationalism, and I'm a Christian, and I say it proudly. We should be Christian nationalists.
Even the Downs decision overturning Roe versus Wade has religious overtones. It has been cheered on by conservatives on religious grounds. And in fact, it's actually led some liberals to look to the religious freedom restoration laws, many of them vigorously opposed over the last decade, to use these laws as an attempt to challenge these statewide abortion bans that are being passed around this country. So
here we go.
As a country, we are entering unknown territory. What is next? Where is this movement heading? My colleague, NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson, traveled to Moscow, Idaho. It's a blue enclave small blue enclave, in an otherwise ruby red state that has been grappling for years with questions about the role religion should play in the public square and everyday life.
You're right.
In northern Idaho's dunes of grains and grass, a battle without bullets over the direction of a town.
I believe that what's happening in Moscow is a microcosm of what's happening all across the country that started here maybe 10 or 15 years earlier than what's happening across the country.
And that is?
Well, just a radical
Yes, you guys heard that right. Moscow, Idaho.
division. I don't think our nation has been this divided since 1859. It's divided and it's inflamed. And that whole process, I think, began to be visible here a decade or a decade and a half before it became radically visible in the nation as a whole.
Pastor Doug Wilson leads Christ Church in what he calls a Cold War civil war.
Our rights come to us from God and not from the government.
Fighting in, of all places, a college town. Moscow, home to University of Idaho and just 8 miles from Washington State University, exudes a live and let live vibe.
One of the interesting things about Moscow is how these two entities live side by side. And I mean literally. Right behind me, that's the offices of the Christ Church. And right next door is the headquarters for the local Democratic Party.
From this former art house movie theater, Wilson leads his campaign to make Moscow a Christian town.
Idaho is a very red state. Moscow was historically a very blue dot in this red state. And so consequently, the fact that we've done this has been disruptive in the minds of some, but the feasibility of evangelizing in Moscow had to do with the importance of the university and the size of the town.
So in your version of a Christian town, would there be a place for non-believers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Would there be a place for same-sex couples?
But you mean legally?
Yes.
You mean like marriage?
Mhm.
No marriage. But there'd be same-sex couples.
No marriage, even though it's the law of the land in the United States?
Just like Roe used to be, right? In my belief system, in our doctrinal stand, and what.
Now you hear that, right? Just like Roe used to be. Now, take a moment and just think. I'm not going to go down the list, but just take a moment. Everything that is not codified or ratified in the through the legislator, okay? So through legislation, okay? So that means everything that is only ratified or not ratified. Everything that's only held at the bench or through bench law. We'll just say, case law. Excuse me, not bench law. Look, what is that? Case law. Everything that's pushed down through the Supreme Court and not codified or ratified through Congress, it is case law. Can be overturned like that. And so what he's saying is he just basically shrugged it off. Oh, like Roe v. Wade, yeah, just like that. So think about everything that has been solidified by the Supreme Court can be wiped away just like that. So if you're wondering what those things could be, I'll give you another thing. Things like, I don't know, segregation. Press play.
What we believe the Bible teaches. Homosexuality is not only a choice, but a sinful one. Yes.
It is a muscular, masculine-led vision of Christianity.
Scripture tells the man to provide, protect, and love. Scripture tells the woman to honor, help, and submit.
Expounded on his show Man Rampant.
Men are going to be dominant no matter what you do.
And articulated in his blogs. This one saying marriage is a little kingdom and the husband is a little king.
A wife should be submissive to her husband, as Paul teaches in multiple places, yes. So a wife should be submissive to her husband. But in the blog post that you just cited, I made a special point of saying that the woman exercises authority over the selection of the one that she's going to submit to.
So when you say wives should be submissive to their husbands, does this mean why shouldn't they be equal?
Well, because God created us a certain way. So we want to fit with the design.
Former Mayor Nancy Cheney says the community has endured decades of Wilson's often incendiary ideas.
When some kind of outrageous statements were made early on about Southern slavery as it was, as a mutually affectionate relationship between master and slave, or saying that members of our LGBTQ community, trans people, should be exiled or possibly stoned, that catches our attention.
Wilson says he was misunderstood, rebutting the many controversies on his website, writing he does not believe in the death penalty for homosexual acts or that slavery was a positive good. But the visible and invisible
What'd I tell you? What'd I tell you?
lines being drawn here and elsewhere across the country are setting off alarm bells for many faith leaders.
Do you consider Christ Church a church?
I don't.
Really?
I really don't.
What is it then?
I see it as a dominionist cult.
Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens leads the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Palouse.
In the public square, I don't see them representing Christianity. I don't see them representing the values that I find in the Bible. I see them representing patriarchy. I see them fighting the culture war.
Stevens' position in that war is visible for all to see, a stained glass rainbow chalice. Wilson fights with the printed word. A prolific author, he's written dozens of books, all distributed by his own Canon Press. It publishes more than 1,000 different titles, half of which are books and materials serving hundreds of thousands of homeschool and Christian students nationwide.
Exactly.
Wilson laughs off the cult accusation, but the former Navy man embraces culture warrior.
You can't have a naval warfare without ships, and you can't have tank warfare without tanks. And as I tell Christians all around the country, you can't have culture war unless you have a culture. Our tagline is all of Christ for all of life. So we want to be 7-day-a-week, 24-hour Christians in everything we do. And a distinctively Christian culture is forming here, and not reclusive and not cultic, but it's distinct.
Here in Moscow, Wilson and Christ Church have built a multi-million-dollar enterprise that includes a K-12 school, a publishing house, a college, and a streaming show. Pursuits that some worry will change the very character of this town.
What scares me is that he is making Moscow into a Wilson town.
Keely Emerine Mix is a former pastor.
What worries me is not that the stamp of Christ might be wrongly shoved down the throats of my neighbors here in Moscow, but that the stamp in the foot of Doug Wilson will be wrongly and is being wrongly crammed down their throats or standing on their neck. I think that his influence on this town has been despicable.
Aubrey and Wyatt Knickerbocker met 2 years after her family moved to Moscow, seeking a Christian town.
We found what at first we thought was a very welcoming community. There was something every day, something new, some sort of baby shower or something for the school. You get very swept up in all of it.
Until they heard this message from another pastor in the church.
Women should wear women's clothes. They shouldn't wear pants.
Shouldn't have short hair.
Shouldn't have short hair. Shouldn't men shouldn't wear
awesome.
earrings. No one should have tattoos.
And then there was this, a psalm sing in the middle of the pandemic, protesting the local mask mandate, retweeted by then President Trump.
That was when I realized that these were not people trying to spread awareness or trying to spread the good news of Christ. It was people trying to say, look at us, we are so oppressed.
Did you feel betrayed when you realized that? How would you describe your feelings?
Yes, very betrayed, because I've grown up in the Christian church and it never occurred to me that a church could be wrong and how wrong they could be.
They stopped attending Christ Church. Aubrey says she was attacked online. Now they actively avoid patronizing businesses run by church members.
If it was another church that owned it and they just happened to have some beliefs that I didn't agree with, that's fine. But when you're hurting people, that's when you have really crossed many lines.
Are you being judged on your faith rather than your product?
I believe 100% that that's true.
Josh Flickner says he came to Moscow seeking a Christian community and found it in Christ Church. But his business, Journey's End Cafe, is paying the price for where he worships.
I really wanted this place to be actually a bridge builder in the community. And so, yeah, it's really a bummer that that a lot of people in the community are just so full of bigotry that they do not want to even try to build those bridges.
He says his workers are threatened by crank calls and his future by a social media campaign calling out businesses run by church members.
Look at what people say about my business and then pretend like I was not a white heterosexual Christian male. That would be a hate crime. Anywhere else in the country, against any other type of person, that would be a hate crime.
3 weeks after this interview, Flickner announced he's closing the cafe.
So how close is Wilson to reaching his goal of turning Moscow into a Christian town? Well, no one is quite sure, but everyone has an opinion.
Honestly, it's almost laughable, only because you're talking about a minute percentage of the population.
George Scandalos and Brandy Sullivan own restaurants and businesses on Main Street.
As someone who was served on the city council, I haven't seen any traction gained in that area. The last two elections, there were some candidates who were members of Christ Church, and those elections were very uneven. And
I would call it a landslide.
There you go. In defeat, yes.
You have 700 active households, about 2,000 church attendees. This is a city of 25,000 people. Is the way to reach your goal to bring in more people,
All right,
or to
now
convert the
listen to
hearts and
this.
minds of those who already
Here we
live
go.
here?
It would be both. Yeah, we would want to persuade the people who are already here, and we want to welcome the people who arrive here.
Like many other churches, Wilson's deals with accusations of sex abuse, including a deacon this summer pleading guilty to a federal charge of child pornography, and Wilson marrying a released child molester to a church member.
The thing that upsets people is not the child molestation offense, because there are 20, 30 sex offenders in Moscow, and everybody knows the name of one of them because of where he goes to church. Right? The ones who don't go to church, they're all okay. They stay out of the newspapers. But the one who is repentant and wants to live right and is, straightened out, we're going to go after him because this is because the target is actually me.
Wilson, if anything, seems energized by the criticism and attention and undeterred from his goal.
Do you see expanding this microcosm
Right here.
from Moscow to the full United States?
Right here.
It's hard to envision how that might happen. I think it would be wonderful if it did. So if there were a reformation and a revival, that's something we pray for regularly. And if what is happening here caught fire and spread elsewhere, I would be very, very grateful.
All right. So a lot to take in there. So before I go and move on and move forward, I want to now that you have an understanding of what could potentially happen, or what is happening in one little microcosmic little area. Okay. I want to take you to the definition of theocracy, because it's important to show you context. So there are different flavors of theocracy. Okay. The main form is a form of government in which God or a deity is recognized as the supreme civil ruler, the gods or deities' laws being interpreted by the ecclesiastical authorities. A system of government by priests claiming a divine commission, and a commonwealth or state under such a form or system of government. Okay, that third one is commonwealth or state, under such a form of government, system of government. Yeah, it's not really, that third one isn't that great. So I have a couple of better ones here. That first one right there, I'm going to break it down into three. Okay, so typically speaking, all right, a form of government in which God or a deity is recognized as the supreme civil ruler, the gods or deities' laws being interpreted by the ecclesiastical authorities. Okay, so here we go. The most major version of a theocracy you can think of is back in ancient Rome and Rome time frame, when we're talking about like Titus time frame. We're talking about Caesar, time frame. Who I had a name in my head now. I can't think of a name to save my life. Crap, I can't think of the name. It starts with a V and I can't think of it now. Save my life. All right, think of it later. Anyway, all right. So Titus, your Caesars, your high emperors. Okay, those individuals were looked at as not only gods, but they were also heads of the actual government. Okay, and so because they had so many different religions going on, if you remember back in the, I'll pull a biblical reference in the book of Acts, when John was talking about, Paul was talking about, they were talking about a statue to an unknown God. All right. That statue was more than likely, I'm going to assume, more than likely a statue of the particular, say, a deity of that individual, let's say, village or area, because each section of Rome was able to worship whatever god they wanted to worship, so as long as they recognized Caesar as a god, as part of their pantheon. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Acts 17. They were able to worship whatever god they wanted to, so as long as they included Caesar as a deity, as part of their pantheon. Okay, so Caesar was the head, a deist head, and also a governmental head. Okay, all right, and he was also part of a dynasty, a dynasty head of a familial kind of sort of reign. So he was also a monarch. So that's like literally was a trifecta in a sense. Okay, I'll touch on that another time, because that's actually a type of trinity, but neither here nor there. We're gonna move on past that actually. All right. Next from that, you have a situation that's similar to like the Vatican that you have today, where you have a pope that is not necessarily worshipped as a god, but he's a vicar or vicarius in Latin of God. Okay, vicarius in Latin means replacement or representative, replacement of Christ or replacement of God. Vicarius filii Dei. Okay. In place of God, or representative of God is what that means. Okay. But he's also the head of the actual government as well. Okay. But he's also the head of the religious institution, but he's not necessarily a deity. He's not a deist, if you will, or he's not necessarily a worshipped or deified in any sort of fashion. Okay. Okay. So that's their second form. Okay. America, I am not positing, nor am I pontificating that America is headed toward either of those two. Okay. Yes. Thank you. So, yep. Exactly. Thank you. Another form of theocracy is where I'm actually thinking that America is actually more or less headed more towards is the third form, where there is no deist, if you will, or no theocratic godhead person or representative or vicarius or vicar. Okay, but essentially where the nation's laws, statutes, legislation itself is assimilated with a religion, with the laws and principles and doctrines of the religion. Okay, that's where I'm thinking that this country is actually burrowing towards ever so slowly. Okay, now I'll give you an example of this. So some would say that there are no theocracies that there are in existence today besides Rome, besides the Vatican. Well, you'd be wrong. Besides the Vatican, there's 5. You have right now, I'm going to botch this. Mauritania, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iran, and Afghanistan. Most of these, if not all of them, are indeed what you would call Islamic law or Islamic laws or Sharia law type countries. Okay, only one that I could honestly quantify and tell you for sure is an Islamic or Sharia law, and that's Yemen. Okay, the rest of them are I can only confirm to you that is actually Islamic law. Only one of them, Yemen, is under Sharia specifically. Okay, and those is where the Quran or whatever scriptural text they have, essentially their laws essentially are governed, pretty much, by their actual religious text. Okay. Now you're saying to me, well, America will never actually try to actually do that. Really? I just showed you a video where you have situations where a particular city is trying to actually, liken itself to a Christian city, right? That'll never happen in America, right? Right? Okay. Well, let me show you something else. Most of America, 70% of America is Christian of some denomination. Okay, 70%. Now, you would say, well, what's the importance of that? Well, when you consider that, let's take Texas, for instance. Whoops. I'm going to bring that up a little bit later because that's important. Texas, for instance, just brought, I wouldn't say just, for instance, but Texas is currently on its way, or trying to anyway, or at least, trying to, or at least did, or whatever the case. I did not pull this up, but I am going to have to bring this up in a form of a PDF. But they're actually trying to right now, and Senate Bill 1515 is doing what they can to make sure that the 10 Commandments is present in every school, in every classroom currently. And that was back in, what year was that? Stand by. Hold on. That was back in, where was that signed at? It does not have a date on it, but it is. You can go look it up. I'll put it in the chat so everyone can see it. But it is Senate Bill 1515. Okay, maybe a year or two ago. But literally, it says display. I'll just show it because I don't believe in just reading it and then not showing it to everybody, because then it makes it seem like I'm not showing it. So here we go. I'll just, keep it consistent. If I'm showing that, I may as well show that too. Window, PDF. Right here. To be enacted legislator of Texas, Senate Bill 1515. What is it doing? Displaying of the 10 Commandments at public elementary or secondary schools shall display in a conspicuous place, not inconspicuous place, but a conspicuous place in each classroom of the school, a durable poster or framed copy of the 10 Commandments that meets the requirements of subsection, a poster, and it tells you how it should be, what size it should be, where it should be put, and how it should be put. In an elementary school. Now, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is there's a point to all of this. And then I'm going to get to, and then I'm going to get to the deeper point. And that is, when you go and you vote, essentially what happens is you vote because, Lost in Translation said it, we live in a democratic republic. You vote, and you vote in a representative. Okay, so everybody who thinks we live in a democracy, we don't. A democratic republic, you use the democratic vehicle or the tool to use the, or to fundamentally work the republic aspect. Okay, so the democratic aspect, or is the function, is the tool that is used to work the republic function, essentially. Okay, so we democratically set up our representative. Okay, so what ends up happening is when you use, or when you go and you set up a representative, essentially that representative goes in and votes legislation, and every legislation files a statute. That statute then goes into a US code, whatever the case may be, which then requires an executive, which means a president, a governor, or whoever, to then enforce. And then when it's enforced, anytime you have an enforcement element, that enforcement element requires what? An enforcement force, police, military, so on and so forth, judicial system, so on and so forth. You get the point. which then provides penalty. So if someone infringes upon, creates an infraction upon that, what ends up happening? Someone is then punished or penalized for not following that statute or that law. I went through that because I need you to understand that when you vote in someone based on your religious views, principles, morals, or whatever, it inexorably turns into levying or inflicting your religious views onto someone else, which is completely antithetical to what this entire society was originally founded upon. Don't believe me? I shall take you to the founding documents, because a lot of people don't read this stuff and they think, well, America was founded on Christian values. Really? I shall show you. Don't worry. Don't worry. Because a lot of people think that because Thomas Jefferson was Christian and the founding fathers were Christian, so we think that America was exactly Christian. America's founding documents were Christian. Let me ask you a question. Let's do a little test. If I walk up to someone, if someone comes up to me and says, "Hi, my God is Allah," what religion are they? Put it in the chat. Allah is my God. What religion are they? Bingo. Or Muslim. Okay. If someone comes to me and they say that my God, that if I come to you and I say to you that my God is, let's do, shut up, Alexa. Hush. I might ask you. Alexa, hush. Dagnabbit. Okay. If I come to you and I say that my God is Jesus, what religion am I? I'll wait, because I'm proving the point. Christian. Bingo. If I tell you that my God is Shiva, what religion am I? Shiva. What religion am I? Hindu. Thank you. All right. Now, I'm getting ready to show you something. Here we go. Let me go ahead and take this back over here. Founding documents. People, whenever they say the founding documentation, let me go ahead and switch screens really quick. People, when they say founding documents, they always want to go back to the Constitution. But the original founding document is a Declaration of Independence, folks. Okay. And by the way, maybe another show, I'll actually read the whole Declaration of Independence, because I got to tell you, man, I got to tell you, the chicanery in this goddamn document, the shit that these people, that the crown did to these people. I gotta tell you, man, the crown was something else. Okay, it wasn't just for taxes. Okay, all right. In the audacity of these people. Okay, so the reason why I went through that little exercise is because it's important that you must name your God in order for you to identify what religion you are. It's very important. It's very important. Because if I say Jesus, I'll have about 10 people in here say his name is Yahshua. If I say God, I'll have some people in here say it's Yehovah or it's Yahweh. Okay, names are very important, right? So here we go. I'm not going to read the whole thing, by the way, but when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth and separate and equal station, to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. One God. Here we go. And decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Watch this. We should hold these truths to be self-evident, and all men be created equal, and that they are endowed by their creator. Get that, their creator, with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I want you to know that's all throughout the entirety of, I read the entire thing, throughout the entirety of the Declaration of Independence. That's all it says about God. You don't see God again until the Bill of Rights, or any mention about religion until the Bill of Rights, which is where you have the involvement of the amendments, the first amendment. Okay. Now, pay attention. There's no mention of which God. And they made very clear to say their creator, which means everybody has a right to be able to practice whatever religion they want to, and not be, if it's true one way, it's true the other way. They have the right to practice whatever religion they want to, and also not have to suffer being inflicted by or being inconvenienced by somebody else's religion also. Now, why is that important in the Declaration of Independence? Let's not talk about the Constitution right now. Let's talk about the Declaration of Independence. Why is that important? Well, hello, people. What was England at that point in time? Put it in the chat. What was England? Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Who knows? What was England at the point in time? Close. Close. Put a one in the chat if you guys can hear me. Yep. Okay. I have no idea why this thing continues to do that, but it just loves to just reset on its own, and I have not a single idea why. Hang on. We're going to have to get this fixed. We cannot keep having that. Okay. So, England at the point in time was indeed a monarchy, but it was a theocracy. No, it was not Catholic. It was actually the Church of England. Correct, Joshua Jones. Thank you. And it is still to this day the Church of England. So, why was it called the Church of England? Well, at one point in time, before who was it? King. Hang on. Before King Henry VII. Yeah, King Henry VII was when they separated from the actual church from the Catholic Church. Okay, so scandalous story. King Henry separated from the Roman Catholic Church because simply he wanted to divorce his wife, and the Pope wasn't having it. His wife wasn't giving him a male baby, and the Pope was not really interested in doing that. And so he said, well, screw you. I'm going to completely separate myself from the church. And he did. And he took England with him. And from that point on, the Church of England was its own church. That was the start of Protestantism and Catholicism. That was the start of it, because that was the actual start. And start and break and fissure between the two types of Christianity, sects or types, if you will. Now, from that split, all the way up until King James of 1611, that's when we get the actual first iteration of the King James Bible. So then we get to America and the colonies, and then what do we have? We have a king like this, and this is why you see the scepter and the globe and the cross, because this king is not only not this particular king here, but the king, the crown, is a theocratic monarchist, in a sense, at the time that we're talking about during the time of the Bill of Rights, around the 1776 time frame. Everyone's tracking. So this is the reason why it was so important for them to say, everyone, we want to worship our own God. We don't want to worry about having to live under a theocratic rule, if you will. That's the reason. Wonderful. All right, moving right along. So bear that in mind. Everyone has the right to practice, the religion and worship who they want to worship. Now, we move forward to the Bill of Rights. Now, I want you guys to understand something, what was happening around this time frame. The Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution to ensure ratification. The Federalists and Anti-Federalists was arguing over the new Constitution. Now, around this time frame, what was happening? Well, similar to how Moses, and the Hebrews was essentially what? Worshiping the way that they were worshiping in Egypt, when he was going up Mount Sinai. He was trying to take them away from, how they were worshiping in Egypt, And while he was getting the 10 Commandments, what was happening? They were doing the works of old. He comes down and he's like, what the hell? What's going on, right? Well, America is doing the same thing. America is separating from the crown. They're like, everyone be free. We have a certain amount of rights. We have this new way of doing things. And what's happening around this time? Well, we have everyone setting up different churches. Look here. We have the Puritans. Where did I say that? We have the Puritans fighting each other. We got churches establishing different. We have states establishing different churches, trying their best to establish the same kind of patterns of old. Essentially, is what is happening. Okay, so here is where we have this. I find very interesting. Now, this is the only thing I'm going to read to you in full tonight. It's not very long, but it is wonderful. Okay, I'm going to bring this up straight so I don't have to keep turning. All right, this is a letter from the Danbury Baptist Association's letter. Okay, now I'm going to paint this picture. Virginia is battling. They're trying to establish churches where the situation where churches are civil officer type positions, where they are not only religious leaders, but then also civil service leaders, like, that they're the head of their communities. Okay. And so the church association is trying to appeal to Thomas Jefferson. Now, remember, Thomas Jefferson is a godly man, at least. Okay. And I can prove that to you. At least, where can I prove that to you? Oh, right here. I can prove it right to you right here. at least here somewhere. Okay. Jefferson became convinced that Jesus' message had been obscured and corrupted by the Apostle Paul. While he took a razor to the Bible, cutting out portions of the Bible that involved miracles and retaining the parables. The result volume of that years later, Jefferson drew from the New Testament, commonly known as. Here we go. For Jefferson, it was a message of Jesus, not claims of his birth, death, and resurrection that lay at the center of Christian faith. But up here, for the most part, they are convinced for the most part that he is, for the most part, a religious man. This entire thing right here proves, for the most part, that every president was a religious man to some degree of some sort of Christian faith, okay, of some sort. But with that in mind, okay, this entire site is called God in the White House, okay? Now, going back, check it out. Here's his letter. It says, "Sir, among the many millions in America and Europe who rejoice in your election to office, we embrace the first opportunity which we have enjoyed in our collective capacity since your inauguration to express our greatest satisfaction in your appointment to your chief magistrate in the United States. And though our mode of expression may be less courtly and pompous than many others clothe their addresses with, we beg you, sir, to believe that none are more sincere. Our sentiments are uniformly on the side of righteous liberty, that religion at all times and places a matter between God and individuals, that no man ought to suffer in name, person, or effects on account of his religious opinions, that the legitimate power of civil government extends no further than to punish man who works ill to his neighbor. But, sir, our constitution of government is not specific. Our ancient charter, together with the laws made coincident therewith, were adopted on the basis of our government at the time of our revolution, and such had been our laws in usage, and such still are. That religion is considered as the first object of legislation. So he's trying to say that religion should be first, and then the legislation second. And therefore, what religious privileges we enjoy as a minor part of the state, we enjoy as favors granted and not as inalienable rights. Okay, catch that. We enjoy as favors granted and not as inalienable rights. And these favors we receive at the expense of such degrading acknowledgments as are inconsistent with the rights of free men. It's not to be wondered at, therefore, if those we seek after power and gain under the pretense of government and religion should reproach their fellow men, should reproach their chief magistrate as an enemy of religion, law, and good order, because he will dare not assume the prerogatives of Jehovah and make laws to govern the kingdom of Christ. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, never mind. I'm gonna keep going. Jehovah and King. Never mind. All right, sir. We are sensible that the president of the United States that the president of the United States is not the national legislator, and also sensible that the national government cannot destroy the laws of each state. But our hopes are strong that the sentiments of our beloved president, which have had such genial effect already, like the radiant beams of sun, will shine and prevail through all these states and all the world till hierarchy and tyranny be destroyed from the earth. Sir, we will reflect on your past services and see a glow of philanthropy and goodwill shining forth in the course of more than 30 years. We have reason to believe that America's God has raised you up to fill the chair of state, out of that goodwill which he bears to the millions, which you preside over. May God strengthen you for your arduous task and providence. And the voice of the people have called you to sustain and support you in your administration against you and against all the predetermined opposition of those who wish to rise to wealth and importance on the poverty and subjection of the people. And may the Lord preserve you. Okay, try this again. Have no idea why it keeps doing that. And may the Lord preserve you safe from every evil and bring you at last to his heavenly kingdom through Jesus Christ and glorious mediator. Now, I'm going to read this section here to you, and then I'm going to land my plane here. All right, wants to get this back together because I have no idea why this thing keeps doing that. This is aggravating. All right. Lost, can I get a mic check really quick? If you can still hear me. There we go. Thanks, sir. All right. So now this is Thomas Jefferson's response. Basically saying, thank you for stroking my ego, sir. Okay. I'm going to read the thing to you, but that's pretty much what the top part says. The affectionate sentiments of esteem and approbation, which you are so good to express towards me on behalf of the Danbury Baptist Association, give me the highest satisfaction. Sorry. My duties dictate a faithful and zealous pursuit of the interests and my constituents. And in proportion as they are persuaded of my fidelity to those duties, the discharge of those become more and more pleasing. Believing with you, the religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God. Between man and his God. Okay. Again, he's very careful not to mention a particular God. He just says his God. All right. And he owes account to none other than his faith and his worship, that the legislative powers of government reach actions and not opinions. I contemplate with sovereign reverence the act of the whole American people, which declared that their legislature should make no law representing an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. So if you're ever wondering where that phraseology comes from, where that verbiage comes from, it comes from here. It's not listed in the Bill of Rights anywhere, because remind you, this letter 1802 is right after the Bill of Rights. Adhering to this expression of the supreme will of the nation in behalf of the rights of the conscience, I shall see with sincere satisfaction the progress of those sentiments which tend to restore to man all his natural rights. So he's not saying spiritual rights. He's not saying godly rights or anything from on high or anything. His natural rights, convinced he has no natural right in opposition of his social duties. So nothing spiritual, whatever the case may be, no natural right in opposition to his social duties. I reciprocate your kind prayers. Now back to regular scheduled programming. I reciprocate your kind prayers for the protection and blessing of the common Father. Here we go, and Creator of man. Okay. and tender you and your religious association assurances of my high respect and esteem. So I'm telling you that I believe the same God you believe, but wah. Okay. So what did I just basically spend time going through? basically saying that conservatives love to say that the founding fathers this, the founding fathers that, we are constitutionalists, constitutional contextualists this, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. But yet your own, my own is mine too, but everybody's own constitutional doctrine, constitutional signatories are saying in plain sight that religion has no place in politics, no place in legislature, no place. There's even another place where he's basically saying somewhere else where the government does not argue in opinions. It doesn't argue in matters of religion, because to the government, religion is opinion. Because religion is essentially, I would call it is there's nothing empirical about religion. You may not like that fact. You may not like that that is the case, or that I am saying that to anybody. But that is empirically the truth. Sorry. As it relates to legislation. So I'll take a little break here for a second and show you something else, but a video this time. I kind of agree with this opinion.
About theocracy. I didn't really pay attention to this term until recently. So when you hear theocracy or Christian nationalism, pay very close attention. Let's read it. So theocracy is a form of government authorities giving divine guidance to human intermediaries who manage the day-to-day affairs of the government. What this is basically saying is that those Republicans who hold to this view, it is the Christian God that is the supreme authority over their governance, or should I say how they govern. So what does this mean to you? It means that if you don't believe what they believe, too bad. They're going to legislate according to their beliefs based upon their faith. Well, this idea negates the fact that there are people who believe different things. Which God are we going to allow to be supreme and rule the nation? This idea presupposes that the Yahweh God of the Bible is in fact the supreme controller, in that all of their governance should be done according to what the Bible, to the way you please. It is only when what you believe infringes upon other people by the people. And the people actively lead and guide these people and to govern these people. The government has to think about the greater good
Give us a second, y'all. We're experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties.
Ringside seats do not need cleansing.
And I'm apparently back. All right. So the idea of that, for the most part, which is a perfect segue to the obviously next point about that, is we want to try and basically keep everything separate and keep all things equal and not impose your religious beliefs onto other people. Because I think, for the most part, the point I want to stick there is this. I think every Christian would be perfectly fine with theocracies, so as long as that theocratic rule is Christian. But I have a question. How many denominations of Christianity is there in America? Don't worry, I'll answer that question for you. It's over 200 in America. So then what if the wrong type of wrong type of Christianity takes the helm and takes the rule? Because I've seen Christians sit back and literally argue about Jesus's name, literally argue about how many creation cycles there were in the beginning. I've literally sat back and heard them argue at whether or not Jesus' purpose was to do away with the 10 commandments and start a new set of commandments or not. I've literally heard Christians argue, because I grew up Christian all my life. Well, not all my life, but the earlier part of my adulthood. So which is probably the safer bet? Because we've seen what happens when religion takes over. Salem witch trials ring a bell to anybody? Quakers and Puritans ring a bell to anyone? How about the 7 to 8 different crusades? Anyone? We've seen time and time again in history where if religion takes over as a government, as a government rule, especially when there isn't just a one single understanding. Yeah, okay, cool. Saudi Arabia is one where the religion is, where the country is thriving just fine. Well, they have a single understanding and they are perfectly fine with that. But over here, that is not the way that works. Over here, there's over 200 versions of Christianity and 45,000 different Christian denominations worldwide, and just 200 of them are here in America. And we're not even going to talk about how many different versions of the Bible there currently are today. What are we doing? So the point that I'm making here is that, bringing the beginning of the show back to the front, is that I think that we are unwittingly turning this country into a theocratic nation when we are voting our not Christian, but just religious views and religious doctrines and religious moralities and morals and principles into the political sphere. And I gotta say, this political cycle is the first political cycle that I have not heard them ask one political candidate yet, how they feel about something religiously. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that I have not seen it yet. I haven't seen it. Every other political cycle has been someone asking, "Hey, what is your political affiliation? Or you know, what's your favorite verse?" Corinthians part 2, 2 Corinthians. You know, that man doesn't have a damn a favorite Bible fucking verse. And it was an unfair question to ask him because it really shouldn't matter. I'm talking about Trump here. Yes, he shouldn't have been asked that question because it was an unfair question to ask any person. And it's an unfair question to ask Trump because it shouldn't matter what your political, what your religious affiliation is, or what your favorite verse of the Bible is, or whatever the case may be, because I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you are what level of deist you are. I don't care if you are, I don't care, because that should not matter as it relates to the political sphere. Yeah. Lost 2 Corinthians, walk into a bar, bite the little crackers, sip the little, you know, juice, you know. Exactly. Like, it really honestly should not really matter, should not, you know, play a role at all. And when we start, my fear is that I don't think that America is fully aware that is what is happening, ever so slowly, ever so slightly. That is my understanding. Okay. And there have been times when this has been basically tested in the Supreme Court. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the times they have been tested, but I'm reading one here, Lemon versus Kurtzman, 1971. The purpose of a law is to be tested, and it has 3 different tests. The law has to have a secular purpose. It 2, neither advance nor inhibit religion, and not result in excessive government entanglement with religion. But yet, as we've seen in the beginning, we have political pundits and political individuals that will advance and say that there needs to be a separation, a breakdown of the separation of church and state. So now, I will say these points, and then I'll give my final thoughts, and then I will let you guys go for the night. But I'll say this. For people who are saying that you aren't Christian or you aren't a certain religion, if you vote like X, or if you are someone who says that a woman should be allowed to do a certain thing, then you aren't Christian. Rights and privileges, or rights in an institution, are not ordained, or not, in my opinion. Now, this is my opinion here. Rights are not established by a deity. Because if they were the case, as my guy Lost in Translation said earlier, and I'm going to have to agree with him, if that was the case, then God would be putting people in jail. Those Bill of Rights that I was showing you guys earlier, let's see, this doohickey over here, Bill of Rights, yeah, all these things over here, yeah, God would have written those things if that was the case. Man wouldn't have had to agree upon them, codify them, and ratify them, and enforce them, and you know, and deploy them. So if that was the case, rights within the corporeal and carnal reality, and we conscribe and subscribe to those rights and statutes and legislation and regulations well before you even realize what the hell a religion is. I would say before we actually go and take a step, before we go into the voting booth, I wanted to do this topic today, a serious one. First, before I do something that's of a lighter topic next week, I wanted to do this one first because it's poignant. But our documentation, for as flawed as it is, our country has within its midst that keeps it from destruction, that keeps it from repeating history. And if we don't know our history, we're doomed to repeat it. And I am starting to see where we are definitely starting to fall into that trap. So I am hoping that we learned something tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know I have technical problems and technical issues. I'm going to have to figure out what the heck is going on with that. But I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and taking the time to be with me on my debut. We're going to figure this out and be a bit more prepared and a bit more put together for the next week, and a bit more of a lighter topic next week for sure. So we'll leave you with this. Be sure to always challenge yourself, challenge your thoughts, think deeper, and most importantly, always be sure to stand on business. All right. Good night, everybody. And I appreciate you guys for coming out.
It's going down like a rodeo. It's going down like I told you so. It's going down like a rodeo. It's going down like I told you so. I hope you're all here for the ride. Come inside, cause it's going down tonight. Only here for one night, no lies, come and saddle up a ride. Need a yeehaw, you know how here for one night and we just wanna party. In a fast car, a Ferrari, it's a push start, I don't need a car key. Slide on Broadway, and it's gnarly, on a late night, but I'm not tardy. Right on time for the parties and Barbies, strolling with a chunk of green like a dog sweet. Hey, 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 bottles on ice, mess around these skates. Hey, 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 if I gotta say it twice, then I got nothing to say. It's going down like a rodeo. It's going down like I told you so. It's going down like a rodeo. It's going down like I told you so. I hope you're all here for the ride. Come inside, cause it's going down tonight. Only here for one night, no lies. Come and saddle up a ride. Come and kiss me up, it's going down like a train with no brakes, I'm not slowing down. See it showing up, we're showing out. Better pack it.